we are going to review and discuss X-Men 97. Yes, the first two episodes have debuted on Disney Plus, and I could not be happier about that fact. So, as far as I'm concerned, yesterday was X-Men 97 day, and shit, so's today. So, happy X-Men 97 day, everybody. We've got, go ahead, Tyler.
I was going to say, great holiday. One of my favorites.
Mine too. Shit, I love it. It's the best. We've got five
How many?
of this week's biggest books from across the industry. We're starting with World's Finest number 25. We haven't checked in on World's Finest in a while, I feel like, but we're gonna look into this one. The oversized 25th issue. Wonder Woman number 7. The winner of the listener pick.
Great cover.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll give you that.
For sure. Resurrection of Magneto number 3. Speaking of great covers, X-Men Forever number 1. My God, this is quite a cover.
I can't not see something in that cover, but we don't need to get to that. It's fine.
No, we don't. and Dawnrunner number 1, which I think everybody's been looking forward to.
Did you get the one by the Low artist? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Zacchini. It's beautiful. Beautiful cover. Love it. So we've got a lot of books on deck today. Thank you for tuning in live. Make sure you guys are smashing that like button.
Smash it.
Appreciate you hanging out with us, whether it's now or in the future. Hello, hello. Let's get into World's Finest, number 25. This features 2 stories, one main story, and then, a small backup, which is really just a teaser for the next arc of World's Finest. But we kick things off with Joker Luthor World's Vilest by Mark Waid, with Steve Pugh joining the art team for a guest spot. Colors by Adriano Lucas, and letters by Steve Wands. And this is literally the first meeting between Joker and Lex. It's their meet cute, if you will. Meet ugly.
And boy, was it.
Oh. Yeah. And Lex needs the Joker because the Joker speaks crazy and can transcribe crazy and can endure crazy. And they kind of have a little trip through the multiverse, and hilarity ensues. This was awesome. This was great. I had such a good time with this. I just love Mark Waid's voice for DC as a whole.
Yeah.
He's always been that guy for DC for me, even though he was sort of blacklisted for years. But like with World's Finest, like this is just really, really damn good DC stuff. And the idea of making the anniversary issue or the oversized 25th one be an inversion of World's Finest with Joker and Lex, I thought that was a fun thing. And Steve Pugh from Flintstones renown, great on this as well. He has a really, really fun Lex that I like.
Yeah. There were a lot of visual gags, like Joker's haircut. And then later on when he has the crazy the crazy penguin gun, the
umbrella.
The umbrella gun. Even just popping in briefly to those little different universes, like seeing Jonah Hex randomly was kind of cool. And Steve Pugh has an art style that, like, if it wasn't Dan Mora who was on main series artist, I could see Steve Pugh playing in this world.
Steve Pugh worked on, I believe it was Flintstones writer. Who was that?
Mark Russell.
Mark Russell. Yes, yeah. He worked on it with it was like the Lex Future State, was it? Or there was like a Lex mini series or something.
Is that right?
And I think he does a really good Lex here. It's contemptuous looking, like he never looks happy, which he shouldn't. He always looks annoyed, disgusted, just angry. The complete antithesis, like in body language, from Superman.
From Joker too, for that matter.
Yeah.
Making them kind of a fun pairing. Like I think 3 weeks in a row we've talked about a book with the Joker in it. I think. Because last week we had Superman, Action Comics, and then we also had Batman, I think the week before. So we've been getting a lot of Joker of late. And this was the only one that I actually like fully enjoyed. And I think it's because you had Lex kind of being absolutely disgusted by him. But also I I I, I don't know. Maybe it's Mark Waid's voice for Joker, but I found him sort of funny actually.
There were some real hijinks here that I think are missing. Like now Joker I think is just perceived as the murder clown, and there's nothing clowny about him other than he's terrifying.
Right.
You know, when in reality, like he has a sense of humor and he can be funny. I think a lot about the there's an old it may be in the Amalgam book where uh the Joker starts to team up with the Red Skull, but he finds out he's a Nazi and he's like, "Look, I may be nuts, but I'm an American."
And I wonder if that's just because of Ledger's Joker. Like since then, everyone's kind of written more of a serious take on it, with occasional bright spots here and there. But I think like in terms of like that point, like this is a Joker I enjoy as well. It's a little bit Scooby Doo, Batman, but like there are glimpses of it too, and like Lex makes a point of it in this book of like he's honestly horrifying. He understands why he's mad, and like that whole thing where the Joker shows Lex what his pure euphoria would be.
Mm.
We don't get to see it; we only see it in Lex's reaction. So like he's still scary, but he's a bit goofy. He's a Joker.
That was a phenomenal moment. That was just so well done. Lex is not a guy who, in all my years reading comics, I can ever think of as having been scared of something. We can say, yeah, he's scared of Superman, but that's not how he presents it. He presents himself as absolutely confident. So to see him so horrified, but by whatever was on the other side, whatever was on our side of things where Lex is looking, right? Whatever that was, like there's a description by Mark Waid. It doesn't even matter what the words are. I think the description is great, but it's Lex's face that sells it more than anything, that can never happen. And that propels him to do something that is out of character, but I loved anyway. And maybe it's not totally out of character, but he put stopping the Joker from achieving his goal over himself getting his own goal. Because I think there's one thing more important to Lex than his own agenda. That's being alive. And that ain't gonna be the case when the Joker takes over.
And the bit in it that I liked is that because of that, he then has to see the world not knowing that he saved them. Like there's still the ego there. So
Yeah.
it's like just an additional bit that I'm like, oh, that's just a good understanding of those characters.
So brilliant. This was so much fun. Like, is this what we're missing out on by not reviewing World's Finest every week?
Dude, it's
Because like,
good. It's good.
man, wow. I don't have anything bad to say about this. I don't. Not that I'm searching for it, but like normally, there's something you can ding. I loved every second of it.
What about the backup on it?
That was so much fun too, dude. Holy shit. First of all, love Batmite, right? How could I not? Well, because of Morrison. So, obviously,
Yeah.
Batmite came up during Morrison's run and was used so effectively. It's not a character that I would see that I don't seem like the kind of person who would like that. But Morrison made it acceptable. And so when I got to this page and I see Mxyzptlk and Batmite from the fifth dimension or whatever, like, dude, I eat that up. I can't wait. Did you see the cover for the next issue? On the cover, Batmite says, "Uh-oh." And for anyone who read Morrison's Batman, that's the first time you see Batmite, that's what he's saying. So that my bells went over. I'm excited. This is gonna be great.
Yeah, I think Dan Mora just like this Batmite Mxyzptlk story is going to let him do some really fun stuff. I mean, he draws in this Batman's penny and Abraham Lincoln coming out of it and fighting the dinosaur in the
That was
Batcave.
crazy.
Like it's just like it's a real big, like what do you have in the room and how do you use it situation with the Batcave. And they do some wacky stuff here that Batmite is a character that lets it happen.
And it's like every time I see something that in any other book, I would go, okay, all right, yeah, the penny is now, Abraham Lincoln came out of the penny to fight a T-Rex. Like, it's so dumb. But there's just something about the way it's drawn, and there's something about the way that Mark Waid scripts it that just makes it funny and makes it, something that I actually want. So hats off.
There's inherent levity in the DC universe that I've always felt above Marvel Comics. And it's not stated. It's just like, I hate to say it, but it's like a vibe, um, and I think Waid really taps into that so well, especially in this series.
Well, I think we lost a lot of it, in the 80s. And we've only gotten flashes of it since then.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
and I think we had so much of it previously, in the 60s and 70s, and the wacky and out there stories, that now even with this we still have to ground it a little bit.
Well, shit. When I started reading comics, I don't know about you guys, but when I started reading comics, DC was like, the D might as well have stood for dark. There was nothing really light about it. And so I wasn't exposed to the fact that that's what DC is like in the books until many years later. So, World's Finest is a throwback series. That's the intention of it. And it's a throwback to an era that I'm very happy to be consuming through the lens of Mark Waid and Dan Mora, let's say. But it's so much fun. I'm overjoyed by this series. Any other week, pick of the week easily, but something else beat it out for me.
This was close for me too. As I was reading it, I was like, "Oh, this is pick of the week." Honestly, a lot of the books, as I was reading them, I was like, "All right, this is pick of the week." Now this is pick of the week. Much better week than last week.
Yeah,
mostly. Easy pull.
Yeah, for sure, easy pull, no doubt about it. This is a great comic book. Let's see, what did the chat think about World's Finest? Atomic Hound says World's Finest read like a thesis on the characters and was spot on. Well done, Professor Waid. Professor Waid, indeed, because Mark Waid is certainly a professor when it comes to this comic book thing.
Aaron Ruiz says, I feel like currently in Big Two, the throwback series are good for the audiences. DeMatteis, Waid, and Micheline coming back.
I would almost take this apart from those like throwback ones that Marvel's doing.
Yeah.
This feels like them trying to capture this in DC Comics as a whole, where the Marvel ones feel like, oh, I'm just throwing that at the audience because we want to make some money. For some reason, World's Finest doesn't feel like a cash grab for me, while the other ones do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think, I was going to say this, I was sort of going to say this. I had the thought while Sean was talking about Grant, but it feels like an extension of what Grant did with Batman and, by making those wacky out there stories canon. It feels like an extension of that, but like a fun one. Like Waid is trying to make these things happen in a way that feels grounded and sort of believable, in a way that would make you go, oh yeah, that would totally happen to Superman.
Sure. Yeah, it's just good shit. Just good shit. Let's see. Izzy's Issues says starting just as I leave work, and I've been eyeballing World's Finest since I saw some coverage of the Magog stuff, and I think I'll take the plunge soon. Yeah, definitely recommend it. Definitely recommend you do that. I missed out on the Magog stuff outside of like the first or second issue of that arc, but prior to that, World's Finest was awesome. So, yeah.
And James Jones says, "Get World's Finest on the regular review rotation." I think it might already be at this point.
I like that. I like when you guys tell us what you want to hear us review. So, since you said that, we will absolutely keep that in mind for the next issue of World's Finest. Thank you, James. All right. So we've got more books to talk about. We've got X-Men 97 to review. As we said, it is X-Men 97 day. We all came prepared. Look at this shirt I've got on. Look at this. Look at this sick
Ooh.
ass shirt representing the man himself,
Look at that Boy
Cyclops.
Scout.
Look at Tyler. Tyler's got the new X-Men jacket from
Oof.
the varsity jacket from Morrison's X-Men run.
I mean, due to my acne scars, I already look like a Quietly or a Burnham Art. So
Oh, you didn't have to. You didn't have to do that.
And then Kale's got a sick X-Men like tracksuit type thing. He reminds me of a Hawkeye, but he's got the X-Men gear on. Remember the Russian dudes?
bro,
The bros.
Bro. Tracksuit Mafia.
Well, bro, if you guys like comics as much as we do, bro, we've got a whole channel dedicated to it. And you're on it right now. If you're hearing us, we're the Comics Pals. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. The best way to support us, as this podcast is supported exclusively by you guys, is Patreon. Patreon.com/the Comics Pals. If you enjoy our reviews, if you enjoy our comic book news conversations and our interviews, that is the best way to show your support for all that we do. Of course, we appreciate everybody on there. And we also appreciate our channel members. Everybody who's a channel member, thank you guys so much. Hope you're enjoying your green names in the chat, your emojis, and your early access to our YouTube videos. So our evergreen videos over there, channel members get first access to. So thank you for that. And also a new show we're going to be doing soon called Pen Pals, where we're going to be answering your questions exclusively for channel members. So lots of stuff happening around these parts. Speaking of which, this Saturday, join us live at a special start time of 1 p.m. Eastern for our conversation with the incomparable Kelly Thompson. We'll be having Kelly on to talk about Birds of Prey, which Birds of Prey was not even out yet the last time we spoke to Kelly Thompson. So we've never had a discussion with her about that book. So get ready, because I'm sure each of us has a lot to say on the matter. Can't wait for that. We'll be talking to Cole. We'll be talking all that good stuff. What we're also going to do is give you, one lucky listener, a volume 1 of one of Kelly's books. So if you want volume 1 of Birds of Prey or Black Cloak or The Cull or even Black Widow or anything else that she's done, you want to be there live with us on Saturday to have an opportunity to win that. All you got to do is leave a question or comment for Kelly. Whether we answer it or not, you will be entered into a randomizer, and the winner will get one of the aforementioned books. So 1 p.m. Eastern this Saturday. It should be a good time.
I'm going to get Birds of Prey. I don't know what you guys are getting, but I'm
that
going
would
to
require DC to put out their trades on a normal schedule. But
Fair.
yeah,
you might take that into consideration.
Very, very fair. All right. Let's get into the next book. I had a lot of fun with World's Finest. Probably not as much with Wonder Woman #7. Written by Tom King, with art by guest artist Gilliam March, who's giving a break to regular series artist. That why do I always forget if it's Jimenez or frickin' Samper. I always swap them up because of that, because these are my two favorite artists at DC right now. But yeah,
it is Samper.
Yeah, it's Samper. So giving Samper a break. Arif Prianto on colors and Clayton Cowles on the letters. And this is a book that essentially features Wonder Woman and Superman meeting up somewhere in space to figure out what to get Batman for a gift for his birthday, which is an extremely simple premise, right? And, it's a slice of life, essentially, type of issue, where a lot of the hilarity is, the relationship between them and some background humor and things like that. And there were aspects of it that I found funny, but I think, Tyler, what did you think of this issue?
This is my pick of the week.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
This is the type of stuff that I love Tom King for. He did this with Batman, where there's a single issue of Batman where Superman, Lois, Bruce, and Selena are just on a double date.
Yeah.
It kind of disrupts the main story, but they're like little side pieces to give the team time to catch up and stuff. I'm sure next issue it mentions the Sovereign at the end. We'll see Sovereign next issue.
Yep.
But these little kind of slice of life stories are what I really enjoy. I mean, I feel like Wonder Woman and Superman is a dynamic that, as like just the two of them, hasn't really been tackled since maybe Superman Wonder Woman the book when they were dating. So seeing that as like a friendship really really worked, because I feel like Batman always has to get thrown into this, and we never really get to see him as a duo. So I was excited to see that, and it's goofy, but it's quiet at the same time. I really like King's characterization of Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is not the most verbose person, but she chooses her words very wisely, and I think King does that in this. Whereas, Superman's kind of he makes dad jokes in this. He's kind of just talks sometimes, especially when it's foiled against Wonder Woman. And he kind of seems like a bit of a doofus, but I think that's charming because it's more of Clark coming out instead of Superman. So he kind of lets the guard down a bit when he's with Wonder Woman. I don't know, man. I just really like this. I was a mall kid growing up too, so throw me an intergalactic mall as a setting, I'm into it. I think I really like Ian March as an artist. I'm not entirely sure something as small as this works for him. I really liked it, but I expect him to do a little more. This is maybe both small in scale, but big in terms of what he had, the amount of different things he has to draw. But yeah, I just really like this. It was just nice, good, quiet comics for me.
Go ahead, Kale.
I hated this. I hated this. I think I would have liked this from anyone but Tom King, frankly. There's just something. One, the premise is already, the I think Alan Moore did the story. What do you get, the Man of Tomorrow or something? Incredible Justice League episode about it. Except this one's for Batman. I guess that's not, it's not such a unique concept. Alan Moore wouldn't be the only person to think of it, but it just, I don't know, it rubbed me the wrong way immediately. And then all this stuff about parking, and Superman has to get his nails done, and this is the only place that does it, and I just found it obnoxious.
The parking thing popped me. I had the same exact issue like a week ago.
Listen, bro, I have that same issue every day. It's called driving. I just couldn't get into it. Superman especially felt like a caricature of the character to me, and I had a really hard time getting into it. And by the end, I appreciate the gift. I think that was a clever turnaround for the way the issue ends. It's clever, it's heartfelt between the two, and it makes complete sense. But it just the whole thing, and then mostly the art was fine. That's the best I feel like I can say about it. It felt busy a lot of the time. And especially the thing, did you guys notice the thing with Superman's cape? How it's always up, it sits above his shoulder somehow?
Yeah, it felt a little spawny.
Yeah. Didn't it bug
That's
anybody else?
funny.
I
Yeah.
just felt it was just part of the way Guillaume March just does it, like a
Oh,
Hyperion cape or something. You'd almost imagine big old, circular things here holding it up.
Yeah.
oh man, I feel like I start every Tom King review by saying I love Tom King. I truly do. I truly, truly do. Human Target was our series of the year, that when that was coming out. I loved Rorschach. I loved Omega Men. Like I feel silly for running the list down of all the things that Tom has done that I've loved, but I'm saying that to make sure that everybody understands that I'm not a hater. I don't have negative feelings towards Tom King whatsoever. He's done a lot of my favorite books over the last decade. Visions. That being said, everything that Mark Waid's World's Finest just was, everything that I said about that, this book is doing similar things, but it's doing them in a way that is grating for me. It's like, here's Superman, right? And here's the same exact Superman beat every page and every single line of dialogue. He's going to say the same things. He's going to do the same things. He's going to make the same face. And I just can't. You know, here's these two characters that you really love, but then let's burden the page with endless BS in the background about parking. I don't care. And like Tyler earlier brought up the issue, the bottle issue of Batman where with the date, right? The double date. I love that issue. That was a fantastic issue. It feels like something is different. Like he's trying a different thing or he's got a different style about him, but that one really worked for me. And this, I just can't. I don't know. I think like I laughed maybe twice, but every page is meant to, it's trying to make you laugh so hard. And it just didn't work for me. I don't know.
We just got a super chat from Hound past us at 10 spot specifically to say, I'm genuinely glad others got a kick out of it, but this did not work for me at all. They could have done a flashback on why Wonder Woman will not ask for help against the Sovereign or even a reprint.
Yeah, like that being the underlying thing in the issue, I did like. I liked that Superman is trying to say, like, hey, let me help you with this. And she's kind of like, no, you know, like, I don't need you to intervene. I almost wish that didn't happen, though, because I don't want to question where these characters are. You know, like, I don't want to have that question of, like, well, why aren't they helping Wonder Woman? Because I sort of feel like they should just help her anyway. Like, why wouldn't they just help her anyway?
Because most of the time they do.
Yeah, if Wonder Woman is needed, which she is, and the Sovereign is bad and everything he's doing is bad, which it is, then they should just intervene. So making me think about the fact that they're not doesn't help.
I think, I mean, that already happened in Wonder Woman. You know, like she did that for her, the Wonder Girls, you know?
That too, right.
And they already were like, no, we're going to help you, you know? Even though we did the whole issue of, you know, telling you, you know, you begging us to not help you. I think it's probably a respect thing for Superman, and I think it's also her not wanting men to deal in business that's not men's business.
This
for
is
what
that
the
is
idea of the story is going for.
That is a bad message, though. I think that's a horrible message, and it's one of the problems that I've had with this Tom King Wonder Woman is that the patriarchy, which is essentially what the Sovereign is a stand-in for, is a man's problem, just like it's a woman's problem. And we're supposed to work together to tear that down. Saying that Superman can't get involved because he's a guy is, to me, completely antithetical to the point. If that is the point, which I think that should be the point, because that's the point in the real world.
Which it could still be the point. It could be that Wonder Woman learns that she can't handle it by herself, and it has to become that. And we're just seeing the beginning of it, because King is supposed to be on this for a decent amount of time. This book,
sure.
So that's definitely possibly still could be it.
I like the idea, you know, like you guys said, that Superman, the premise of this is that Superman is trying to say, let me help you. But man, I feel like it gets lost. Like it's just, there's so much going on constantly. The page itself is busy, and then the dialogue is so busy that in those moments, it felt like King slipped into Superman trying to say, tell me what's going on, let me help you, that it got lost, and when it came up, it felt weird.
I almost feel the opposite. Whereas I felt like this entire issue could have done without that bit. And like when Superman mentions, he's like, "Are we going to talk about it? Are we going to talk about it?" My first gut was not even what was happening at Wonder Woman. Like my first gut was, "Are we going to talk about us, being in a relationship, a decade ago?"
What? Why would they talk about that?
Because because they had a relationship. It's never really been brought up before. So it kind of felt like two exes going out on a date because they have a shared friend. And I thought, like, I wasn't even thinking about what was going on in the main Wonder Woman story until they brought it up explicitly. And I was like, oh, okay, of course, that's what he wanted to talk about. It's not, are we ever going to discuss this being our past,
Well, and wasn't that an entirely different character?
Yeah, that's New 52.
Yeah, but the Superman of the New 52 was merged in two different ways, and then there was Rebirth. So yeah, I don't know what actually stuck there, but yeah.
Yeah, oh man. And then like I have to sit through seeing Superman get a mani-pedi. Like I
You ever get one?
don't know. I don't read comics for this. No, I never have, and I'm sure I never will.
They're pretty nice. Don't get the fish one though.
I think that the premise of getting Batman a heartfelt gift would be strong enough.
I would have enjoyed seeing them traveling and trying to find something and going through hijinks maybe, and having a cool fight somewhere in there, and then ultimately realizing, you know what, let's just get him whatever it is, the same way the issue goes, but without the constant need for gags. I was gagged out by the end. So for me, this is an easy pass, and you guys keep wanting us to review this book. I mean, it won the poll in a fucking landslide. Like, it wasn't even close. 55%, I think, of you wanted Wonder Woman.
Y'all killing us.
If this is what you guys want, then we'll keep doing it. But as much as I love Tom King and Semper and everybody on this team, with all due respect to them, I don't enjoy this. We don't have to enjoy everything we read, right? And this isn't for me.
Style So Serious asks, you don't think King is setting up the dichotomy between Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman to John, Damian, Trinity with this issue?
I think that dichotomy has existed since before we were alive, right? So I don't feel like he needs to set anything up. I sort of see what you mean, but I think that those backups stand on their own because we know who these characters are representing. Like, Damian is essentially, that's Bruce's son, right? So like we all get that. But look, I'm not the arbiter of quality. This issue worked for Tyler, and you guys love Wonder Woman. So that's all that matters. But just as a person, it's not for me.
Or me. Pass for me.
And it was Tyler's pick of the week. So there you go. Let's see. What else?
Fee Waiver thinks there will be a Wonder Woman Batman issue later. Could be.
Yeah, and issue 14, when Semper needs another break, maybe we'll get that, So it'll be Superman's birthday or, something like that.
We need Wonder Woman's now. That's what we got to say.
Oh, man. Rami says it felt like an annual, not the main book. Yeah, it does feel like an annual as well. I'm not going to begrudge them giving Semper a break if that's what he needs. It's hard as hell to do this type of thing, so.
And if this is the format that the annual takes in order to give the artist a break, like, cool.
Yeah.
I always hated annual formats because it just screamed skippable to me.
Yeah.
MPL Murphy says, I voted just for this. Rerun the Spawn era.
It's like inverted, though. I'm the one enjoying it this time.
But you know what's so funny is that I feel like Tyler was here ultimately. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but I feel like you were ultimately here for a cup of coffee in the Spawn era. We didn't get to review that much Spawn.
Sure didn't feel like it. That's for sure.
I want to review more Spawn. Let me tell you the truth. I saw King Spawn on the list for coming out issue 30 in a couple of days, couple weeks, and I was like, we should review that. And then I saw Tyler's face in my mind, and I was like, oh, we can't.
You're allowed to fuck with me every so often, Sean. It's fine. If you want to throw it on a poll and see what the fervor for it is, I'd be curious too, honestly.
After this much Wonder Woman, like, come on.
We're owed.
Yeah.
We're owed. So, all right. So then that's your fate, Tyler. The next big Spawn issue, at the least, is going to be on the poll. We'll see what kind of week it is, at the very least. But speaking about the poll, since we, of course, just read the poll winning book, let's refer now to the listener pick poll, which is up for next week's crop of books. We have what I think is a pretty interesting week. We've got Gods number 6. This isn't the last issue. I think the last issue is 8, right? I'm not sure.
I think 8. Yeah,
But
8 smells right.
yeah, so we've got that at 19% of the vote. We've got Batman Dark Age #1. That's the Mark Russell. I forget the artist, forgive me, but that's the Mark Russell.
Mike Allred.
Thank you.
Mike Allred,
There you go.
yep.
Mike Allred. That's at 44%. So cleaning up. So maybe it's just if I put a DC book in here, it just cleans up. The little book that could, Feral #1. This is by Tony Fleeks. And I haven't read anything by Tony yet, and people love Local Man, and he did another one that people really love. So I really wanted to give this a chance, but right now it's only at 3% of the vote.
It's at 5 now. I just voted for it.
Okay,
So you put a
fair
cat
enough.
book on there, of course.
And The Incredible Hulk, #10 at 33% of the vote.
I'm honestly surprised that's losing against Batman Dark Age. The Incredible Hulk is usually a Hulk of an option in these polls.
I look, of all the episodes we've done and all the data we have, I feel internally that we have a DC skewing audience. So I believe that's why that is.
We got to change that.
I can't do it. I've been a fan. I've been preaching Marvel for all these years, and I can't. It is what it is. You guys love DC. I love DC too. So, but yeah, get your vote on. Make sure you guys vote. This most recent poll was the most votes we have ever got, and it was for Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman.
So let's do even better if we can. I love where this is trending with the poll. Keep voting. Vote for whatever you want, regardless of what we say. The vote is all yours. Let's talk about Resurrection of Magneto #3. This is by Al Ewing, written by Al Ewing, with Luciano Vecchio on art, David Curiel and Jesus Albertov on colors, and letters by Joe Sabino. This is the encounter between Storm and Magneto and the Shadow King. And, the Shadow is often, especially if you get into Jungian psychology, the Shadow is often the idea of your shadow self. This is the parts of you, the part of you that is everything that's sort of bad or dark, all those sorts of aspects of you, the aspects of your personality that, come from negativity. And the Shadow King is forcing our heroes to be faced with their shadow selves and the shadow aspects of their personality. In Magneto, that's in a very obvious and direct way. With Storm, it takes a little bit more subversion. And that's because Storm is often perceived as being a flawless person. So, this was my pick of the week. Al Ewing is doing some all-time great work on this book. Luciano's art is stellar, and it's the ways in which you really have to think and you really have to break this book down that take it to another level. It's not just, monthly comics. It feels elevated by the fact that Al Ewing's got a real point to make, and he's doing it in a brilliant fashion.
I think it's both, honestly. Like you could just read this on surface level and it's a fun book. Cool stuff happens, but you can also take it apart. And I think that's where Al Ewing does stuff that's really impressive, because there are people who write, real heady stuff like this in superhero comics, and then it's just like, whoa, okay, a little too much. But
That matter though, I think even reading it on a surface level is you taking it apart. You've got one character facing a past version of himself that's all rage. This is pure dissection of character. This whole book is, I think Hound said it earlier. It's thesis level work on Storm and Magneto.
Right.
And I don't know if you guys laughed at it, but the fact that the shadow version of Magneto being first appearance Magneto Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, and
Mm.
everything was in all caps. That just kind of made me laugh. Like he's just
Bigger
yelling
font. I've been
constantly. Yeah.
I've been working on my manga lettering, and so I've been knee deep in different size fonts, and I noticed as real quick his even his normal font isn't just all caps, but it's slightly bigger.
Well, and I think it plays off of the idea that early Magneto was pretty basic and one note.
Sure.
And the Magneto that we get to see and read isn't that guy. Like, regardless of whether or not you think he's a hero, a villain, an anti-hero, whatever, he's a much more nuanced character than he used to be in a literal sense and otherwise. It's just, it is what it is. And I think Al Ewing presenting, that old version of Magneto in that way is really forcing us, as much as Magneto, to face the fact that the character has changed, which is why they cannot, and this is counter to my own prediction, they cannot revert Magneto back to the villain version
Yeah.
of old in this new era of X-Men. That can't happen. The character has meaningfully moved beyond that.
It's almost like, to use a wrestling term here, a double turn. The evolution of Professor X has kind of painted him as a villain in a lot of regards. And Magneto's one of the few big two characters that has had a legitimate evolution where there's been distinct character change that's lasted.
Yeah. Like, I'm not saying I would never tolerate Magneto as a villain again. I absolutely would. It's more just that even if he is a villain, he's not going to be this, and I love that. I just, and again, Al Ewing putting that on Front Street. That's brilliant stuff. And of course, we've been seeing this over the last few issues, but using the Shadow King to represent that, getting that character, in the mix again. I'm a huge Shadow King fan. And I was so pleased with his usage here.
And Sean, correct me if I'm wrong, but like the Shadow King in the body of the fat guy, I forget his name.
Yeah, I can't.
He was
Amal Farouk.
Yes, he was
Yes.
He was expelled from Amal, right? I think in like New Mutants or something. So like this is also like going full circle with a lingering plot thread from the Krakoan era too.
Sure. Yeah, and it's getting into like the Shadow King as more of an entity than necessarily being tethered to any particular person, which I also think makes a lot of sense. Let's talk about the Storm aspect of this though, because while I think the entire book is an analysis of these characters and forcing them to face their shadow selves, again, I think if you're not fully aware of what's going on, the Storm stuff can be a little more difficult to ascertain. But, she even makes the point of the Shadow King is testing the flaws that aren't obvious. Storm is like perfect. And even as readers, we expect that anytime that Storm is in the mix, she's always going to be the best. She's always going to be able to hold shit down. Storm knows what to do. She is like the perfect X-Man. We've seen Cyclops go through the ringer and even go as far as to be considered a villain at times. Jean Grey is knocked out. She's not even a factor in the end of Krakoa. Storm is the X-Men as it relates to just being the ever-present perfect person. But perfection is flawed as well. And we've seen that analyzed with Emma Frost and Grant Morrison's run on New X-Men. And I think this issue is analyzing that same concept with Storm, because perfection is flawed as well. She needs others to be who she is. And it's not enough for her to just be a goddess. She's also a team leader. She's also a sister. Right? But that's why Storm is such an amazing character, because she knows that too. She's not driven by ego. She is selfless as much as a human can be.
And I do like the different depictions you mentioned it between Magneto's trial and Storm's trial in this. Magneto's is a chessboard; it's a discussion on the character, but Storm's is what always happens with Storm. It's a duel. It's Calypso and the Morlocks. It's Araco. I almost said Arrakis. I got Dune on the brain still. And this is always how Storm does things, and she always comes out on top. And I thought like again, like that was also just like a good understanding of who that character is.
But
Yeah.
I think the thing that really sums it up is when she's fighting the first Fallen. She
Mm.
says the prime opposite to the Phoenix, according to the Watcher. For the Phoenix is death and rebirth, and the Fallen can only be stagnation. And I think Storm has been a character that we've watched change over and over and over again, um, taking different roles and taking different positions, um, from goddess to leader to queen. You
Say it,
know,
Kale. Say it. Yes.
I think, and each time, just like she breaks out of this statue, that she's locked in here, she asks, "Is that who I am?" And then she says, "Hell no."
I even sort of took that maybe a tiny bit meta. I think a lot of people aren't always ready for Storm to be that progressive character.
Sure.
And Storm has to keep progressing and evolving as a character. She should be allowed to do that. I love the fact that she was confronted again by the Annihilation Helm here, which again, Shadow King, but with the Annihilation Helm, theoretically, Storm could do even more good. So it's the question of, like the road to good is paved, the road to evil is paved with good intentions, or the road to hell, however that phrase goes. You could see a world where another person, like Cyclops or a different leader, would say, "Hey, there's an opportunity for me to do better by aligning with this. I can overcome the power of the Annihilation Helm and use it for the ultimate good." We already know that is never how that works. Storm knows it too. So that's why she was able to reject it the first time, and she's able to reject it now, because she's not swayed by power. She is power. She don't need outside power.
You know what this reminds me of? And I think it's I wonder if this is a little bit of working with Rom V that's rubbed off on Al. At least in my head. This reminds me of the conversation that we had with Rom V the first time when he told us that the 7 types of story don't work. It's not a true thing,
Right.
because it's only like a Eurocentric point of view. And it's like, for me, like what you just said is like, well, we know this story of, this great leader taking on the big annihilation helmet because they can use it and they'll overcome, but they never do. But Storm knows that. And literally anywhere else in the world, we don't need that story, because, they know, those characters know, those people know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
man.
Storm, coming from, a different background, and when she's utilized correctly, you know, has those thoughts and those experiences that inform the way she reacts to things.
And I think with the new X-Men books that we're getting, Storm was one of those titles that was kind of on the bottom half of it. And I just like how Marvel is realizing that Storm can hold her own in terms of like storyline, in terms of character. So I'm excited to see where her story goes too, because I think Al set her up in a really really interesting spot.
Yeah. And I think, first of all, it wasn't obvious by now. This is my pick of the week.
Yeah. Pick of the week. I was sort of torn. Pick of the week.
It's a phenomenal issue.
Yep.
This is the kind of thing that I really, really wanted more of throughout the Krakoan era.
Yep.
Too much of it for me felt either because, like, clearly we're not dumb, right? Al's got a lot of stuff happening in this issue. You guys heard Kale's breakdown of the first issue. There's a lot of stuff going on. We're, comic book readers are not stupid people. We can handle storytelling depth. There's a difference between depth and like just nonsense, We're gonna get to some nonsense in like next book. This is depth, but there's clarity to it. And it's meaningfully playing off the history of these characters to tell a compelling story that not only furthers the narrative in a meaningful way, but also reflects on who these characters are. And I care about that as a lifelong X-Men fan.
And the thing that I love about Al Ewing's work is that like either this dude knows everything there is to know about Marvel Comics, or he is fine with doing research on pulling out weird things. Like the Fallen One is a character I only know of because it came in a Marvel Legends 2-pack that I almost bought, you know? Like I don't even know who that character is, and then making that the antithesis of the Phoenix Force and using that to I was like, "Oh man, this dude just does some really weird stuff." But it's good. He does his homework, and it's an amazement, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's hit some comments before we get on to the next book. Aaron Ruiz says Storm slowly becoming the breakout star from the Krakoan era. I never felt she was going to be a major character outside of a glorified side character. Well, so that is a phenomenal point. And I think that the only thing that is like objectively positive in my mind in this moment about the difference between the Hickman era and whatever this is has been Storm, because Storm was sidelined during Hickman's era. Remember when she had that weird techno organic infection and Emma and Jean had to go inside of her to try to root that out, and there was this whole that was Storm, that was all they had for Storm at the time. I don't know how much of all of this was in Hickman's plans, but he certainly never seemed that interested in her. So Al has done a tremendous job.
Yeah, she didn't show up really until the first Hellfire Gala. When they announced they were terraforming Mars and this was all happening, and then she went to Mars. And it seemed like that was supposed to be her move.
Right.
And whether or not that was sort of Hickman's move or if that was Al going, no, I think I want Storm. I think is up for debate.
Yeah, exactly. We never know where to put the praise or anything with those subjects. Atomic Hound, I love hearing Sean talk about a good X-Men comic. Sean just described everything Wonder Woman #7 was not. I won't say any more about Wonder Woman #7. People love it. What I will say is thank you, and I love these characters very dearly. So to see them treated with respect, I mean, it means a lot to me.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear you talk about the next book, Sean.
Ugh. Oh boy. I want to jump forward, but I really want to hit this comment.
Yeah.
So Izzy's Issues said, speaking of thesis level work, I would love to know more about Cale's master's thesis sometime, since he said Grant Morrison quotes were an important source. Cale.
Well, so my comics master's course, I did a thesis on metatextual work. And frankly, now that I'm a little bit older, a little bit wiser, I'd probably use this. But I used at the time, I really leaned heavy on Grant, because Grant was not that they were the only person doing it, but they were the premier person doing it and trying to do something with it in what felt like just about everything. So I, obviously I used Animal Man, I used Flex Mentallo, I used the Seven Soldiers of Victory. I think I even quoted from Super Gods at certain points. I said, I think it was last week or maybe the week before when we were talking about the Joker, how I said the Joker can, the Joker sees the world and like past the world, and he can see the puppet strings. He just plays along with it, and that's his thing against Batman. That was from Grant. That was from a I don't know if you guys would know the mindless ones.
Were those characters in Batman?
No. It's an old academic style blog that used to do reviews and yeah.
Yes,
Somebody might know it.
yes. I vaguely remember this now that you mentioned it's a blog. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. They had an interview with him about with Grant about Aztec, the real obscure character Aztec goes up against the Joker, and Grant has to explain why that makes sense and why it's a big deal. And that's where he talks about like the Joker doesn't just see one reality, he sees everything. And that's why when the Joker looks out, he's looking at you, and that should be absolutely horrifying. And that's what I can remember.
Do you still have it?
Yeah, somewhere.
Okay.
Hopefully that answers your question, Izzy. Uncaged said, I thought this issue slapped, and I don't know the Shadow King, so I'm trying to deconstruct this issue and also trying to cross-apply to Ultimate X-Men, so it felt extra deep to me. Well, I do believe that that is the Shadow King in Ultimate X-Men. That is to be determined by Peach. However, one bottle episode, I think it's one singular episode, and I recommended this to Kill before, but the X-Men animated series, the original one, there is an episode that features Storm versus the Shadow King. And it is phenomenal. It is my first exposure to that character, and that's a great place to start. If you want to read further, Amal Farouk, Shadow King, appears in Uncanny X-Force by Rick Remender and many artists.
There's some great Shadow King in the Legion TV show on FX too.
That's what I was gonna bring up. Yeah,
underrated show. That show was nuts. Yeah.
All right, let's jump on to X-Men Forever #1. This is written by Kieran Gillen. Oh, Kieran.
Back to your old ways.
Yeah. I'm trying to find the okay. Yeah, Luca Maresca on art, colors by Federico Blee, Clayton Cowles on the letters, and the regular Tom Muller designs. Jay Bowen and Kat Gregorowitz also helping out on designs. So I am now faced with the challenge of describing what it is that this issue has, what happens in it. But I think I can manage. So essentially, we are seeing what has been happening in the margins of the other Kieran Gillen books that we've been reading, Immortal and of course Powers. And the question marks that we've had about what's going on, even Dead X-Men, which is not by Gillen, but this issue, this run, I guess, is serving to answer those questions and kind of play in the margins. We're seeing how Mother Righteous, actually, what the real Mother Righteous has been doing while, her avatar, or whatever you want to call it, has been inside of the white hot room and has now been, defeated by the X-Men that are stuck there. And then she gets, intercepted by Selene and Professor Xavier and Shaw, and all these other things are going on. Meanwhile, Professor Xavier's got his own play. He sends, he gets Rachel to assemble the Dead X-Men and get that whole thing together. He sends Rasputin on her mission that we're seeing play out in X-Men and, the fall of the house and everything else. So a lot of the stuff that we're seeing is just that, in the margins stuff. I don't have a problem so much with any of that. My problem
with that.
Go ahead, Tyler.
I have a huge problem with that part of it.
My problem is that if you read this book without any of those things, like if you read this and just haven't been keeping up for some reason, this issue doesn't make any sense at all.
Oh, thank God.
No sense.
It didn't.
Fair enough. And also, it feels to me like this is probably something that should have come out before all of that.
So in his newsletter, he said this was supposed to come out, I think. I want to say it was in in January.
There you go.
Like it was supposed to come out around X-Men 19 or something. I don't know why I remember that specifically, but yeah, you're right. This was absolutely supposed to have already come out.
This book is emblematic of what I think is what's happening with the fall of Krakoa in this era, this end of the X-Men age, and it is unimaginably dumb the way this is put together. Just from a publishing standpoint, the fact that like
Yeah.
I'm looking at the solicits for issue 2 of this, which apparently comes out in June. I don't know why. Immortal means forever. The fight for Krakoa's future begins here. Since Rise of the Powers of X began, there have been a few mysteries unrevealed. Now Kieran Gillen gets to fill in the gaps of what happened between the end of Immortal X and the beginning of the Krakoan Age. Why are we having books that explain things that are confusing about stuff we've already read coming out in the future? This makes no sense from like just a literacy standpoint. Like why it is mind-boggling that these books are being put out this way.
It's absurd. And it's like that's not Gillen's fault, right?
No.
So it's hard to ding him for that aspect of it. That's a Marvel problem. That's a publishing problem. You're right.
Sure, and I think Gillen's work, like, love him or hate him, but Gillen does have a certain way that he writes, and the way this is being put out does not help him at all. Like, his stuff is already a little heady, a little out there, a little weird, especially his Immortal X-Men stuff. And this, like, I read this, I'm like, did I miss an episode? Like, it felt like a TV show that I'm watching something out of order.
You are.
It's
fucking
so
Firefly.
bad.
Dude, it's unbelievable. This is just, to me, this should be unacceptable. It should be unacceptable that you get a comic book made like this, right? This is an integral issue.
Mhm.
Like, this issue makes prior things we've read make a lot more sense, but only in retrospect. So what if you're the kind of person who says, whoa, none of this shit makes any sense, I'm out?
Dude, that's
you
how
would
I
have
felt.
said that. You would have made that statement like 3 months ago.
I did. Do you remember?
Yes.
We read Dead X-Men. I'm like, what happened? Where did we miss something?
Yep.
I was
How
confused.
many times? Tyler just said he said, did I miss an episode? But how many times has one of us said that already? It's like every issue that comes out, one of us is like, wait a second, what happened? Where are we now? What the hell?
And it's not just like the solicit says, few mysteries have been left unrevealed. Like, no, these are integral plot points. We're going from A to C to F to B. Like, it just makes no sense in terms of plot points.
That's not even how mystery works. Like, these things are just like crazy. Like, for example, there's a moment where Professor X shows up in an alleyway, right? When Mother Righteous is running away. So I get to that moment and I'm like, whoa, what the fuck? How is he here? What, like, how did he, like, what the hell is going on? Not because he couldn't have known that she would be there. That's fine. I thought this motherfucker was stuck. It's just like, it's all over the map. But then if you go back a few issues, he just magically appears with the rest of the living X-Men that are not in the White Hot Room. So it's like, how did he get there? And there's never any explanation of any of that at all. It's bugged out. And this is not a knock or a ding on the book, but can you shave your fucking beard? If I had a beard, look, maybe you don't like my beard, maybe you do, whatever. Professor X doesn't normally rock a beard. So he should, like, isn't that the first thing you get to? Like, oh man, I'm off that crazy island. I'm in civilization. I get rid of this fucking beard. His beard is weird.
Did Tom Hanks get rid of his beard at the end of Castaway?
He should have.
Yeah, he did. He did.
It's the first thing you do when you're trapped on an island and get off. And also,
I shave mine.
you're still trapped.
Still trapped.
Also, I am furious with the fact, and this is just up to the creators. I'm furious with the fact that this whole Krakoan era is ultimately boiling down to a Sinister story. I actually had this thought while reading. Was this actually just a an indie book that Kieran Gillen wanted to do and just was like, actually, let me take that and just put it in the X-Men. Because the idea that a guy cloned himself multiple times to become the ultimate ruler of the universe, but created these clones that, actually are kind of bumbling and they end up fighting each other for supremacy. That actually sounds like a pretty cool story unto itself. And I'm not even mad about that. What I'm mad about is that Sinister's not the main character of the X-Men.
Yep.
So why are there 5 of them?
Yep.
Not only that, the last issue of X-Men we had killed one of them off, but then he's back in here because we had to go back in time. But it's like, all right, well, if I already know what happens to him, what do I care about what happens here? It's funny. Like there are some points of this that I thought were like little glimmers of like what could have been if it wasn't so bogged down with so much stuff. Like the Mystique Destiny stuff, I think is the best part of the book.
I opened the book to that and I went, okay,
yeah,
I'm fucking back.
And the bit
Let's
where it's
go.
like they were on a date, but because of the times they couldn't actually be on a date, so they were on dates with 2 other guys who were technically on a date with each other. And it's like, all right, that stuff I like.
And even that, and then getting into Destiny sort of explaining what Enigma actually is. I was like,
I kind of checked out there.
Well, see, that actually made a ton of sense to me, and I was like, okay, I like this. Yep. Let's go. And then it's immediately undercut by Mother Righteous, and I was like, oh well, fuck, I'm out.
Like, dude, here's the thing. Go ahead.
I was gonna say Mother Righteous. I don't mind as a character by herself. Like the stuff that Spurrier was doing with her was fine.
Well, come on. I just don't get her.
The stuff Spurrier was doing with her, where?
What's the one, the Nightcrawler fucking book where he was making the new rules?
Oh, Way of X.
Yeah, where she was she was collecting gods. Like that was her thing. That's before we knew she was even a Sinister clone at that point. She was kind of her own thing.
Yeah. Whew. Man. Yeah, like I was happy to see Celine back. I like the Shaw aspect of this. Like that totally all made sense to me. Like Shaw's just a businessman at the end of the day. You knew you were messing with a bad dude. You know who I am. And I think that that's a great way to sort of condemn. Like the only condemnation of Professor X that I actually accept in this Hulk Cohen era is that he teamed with the wrong people. He shouldn't have involved Shaw. Definitely should have kept Sinister at bay. That was a disaster. So like I'm with that, right? Like he shouldn't have done that. The rest of the condemnation of Professor X, I don't buy. But I was even happy to see Shaw. It's just the totality of all this and the way that it ties in to things that happened in the past, even though this was supposed to happen before them. Like it's just too bizarre, too much of a brain melt. And we just read and praised the hell out of Resurrection of Magneto that plays off 60 years of history.
And like, I just think this book is just encumbered. It's just buckling. That the whole Fall of X is buckling under the weight of its own size. You know, and really in 3 main books, it's kind of having to close everything up, and it is evident that it is just happening too quick, I think.
In 3 main books, but 15 spin-off books.
Sure, but I feel like those books are introducing new things as opposed to closing out other things, which is an issue in and of itself.
Yeah, that's not better.
but this issue exists to close things out. Like, why are we still like? It's crazy. They're still starting issue 1s, and then they're still introducing mysteries in these issues when this whole thing literally wraps up in a month or in 2 months.
Yeah.
I cannot. It's just crazy. It's just, I pass. Like, I like this issue fine at times. I think that the Luca Maresca art is really good, and Federico Blee is an all-star of a colorist, and I just love everything visually except Professor X's beard. I don't have any bad words to say about the art. It looks great.
The beard is how you know he's getting ready to be morally corrupt. You know, how can you tell otherwise?
But tell me something.
It should be his eyebrows.
Sorry. One last thought. I gotta get this in. I just can't help myself. Did you guys understand fully what the fuck was happening with Doug and Professor Xavier and Sinister in that scene?
They're in Dead X-Men when we see Doug. There is no indication that that's not Doug and that it's Mr. Sinister. There is no allusion to it at all. This book brings that up, and I guess Doug is dead or he's with Krakoa, but he's not because we
It's
just saw
not.
Colossus with Krakoa and
It
Juggernaut.
it wasn't in Dead X-Men. It was in
Rise, yeah.
okay, yeah. What it was whatever title Xavier's in. Yeah. So we have seen that. My I my impression there is that Xavier, one way or the other, figured out how to clone what was in his head into a Doug Sinister body. And so then once he got that out, the Doug Sinister was able to kill the Sinister in Xavier's head. And that's why we see him scrunched up in the little, brain matter or whatever.
Uh-huh.
What a weird way of doing that.
So it just explains how that happened in that issue of Rise.
That sequence melted my brain. I was just like, whoa. I'm a clone of this one, Sinister, in my brain, your brain. This dude's got a diamond. He does like, I was just like, oh my God. Help me.
I had X-Men Whiplash this entire week. I went from 97 to this to Resurrection of Magneto. I was like, oh, is X-Men good? I can't tell.
Well, yeah, right. Well, and not to get into it, but there was like a hint of Sinister in 97. No spoilers. I don't remember. I don't even remember what I saw.
It's
He's
in
the main
the
villain.
opening.
It's confirmed.
Is that what it was? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But I went, oh, cool. If this can make Sinister like a threat again, I'll be thrilled, because I'm not having it. Like,
That's the thing. I'm actually traditionally a huge fan of Mr. Sinister.
same. Yeah. And you and I are probably from the exact same school.
Dude, top for me before this,
Yep.
and before Gillen's X-Men run in the 10s, where he used Sinister there, before all that, to me, it was Magneto, Apocalypse, and Mr. Sinister in that order.
Mhm.
I can't stand him now.
Mhm.
Anyway, let's hit a couple of comments. Atomic Allen says, turns out I love hearing Sean talk about bad X-Men comics too. That's where my passion's at, man. Like like I said, I love these characters. So seeing them treated like this bothers me. Oh man, I could listen to Sean rail against bad books for hours, but I'd be concerned for his mental health. That's from Dan. Listen, I don't know how well you guys can tell in the camera, on the camera end of things, but I got a lot of grays, and this could be a reason why. So,
And
I've been editing
all,
them out, Sean. Yeah.
they're all the Krakoa era.
yeah. So in other words, let's stop having Wonder Woman win the poll. Yeah.
Pick the week.
Thanks for the comment, Dan. Appreciate it. Cole said, we still have that Apocalypse book coming before the relaunch. Another one, DJ Khaled voice. Yeah, there's literally still yet another issue 1 in this era to come. Somehow, some way.
Cole also said this type of disorganization in X book speaks to why they flushed the old editorial and brought Revort and Co. in. I don't know if that's the case. I sort of feel like all this is happening because they've flushed everything down. And I'm not saying that the old stuff was great, or, was particularly organized, but it definitely wasn't this. And I feel like they're having to rush everything so that Brevoort can have his day in the sun or whatever, and, they can finish it.
I really don't know why people believe that. We already know as of July, I think, that they had announced the future of the X-Men under Jordan White, and that in November we would see more. We didn't see more because the more never materialized, but they were getting out of this phase regardless.
I think the question for me comes in like, how hard was their pivot under Jordan D. White? Was it a soft pivot out of Krakoa? Because now the Brevoort one feels like a hard pivot.
I don't think that there's any scenario in which Krakoa would have been anything other than a distant memory after this era. I think the stated goal, nonverbal stated goal, we all read comics, we know the drill, is to set the X-Men up in a place that's familiar for people who are lapsed X-Men fans. Whether they're comics readers or not is irrelevant.
Yeah.
Because of 97 and because of the MCU debut. I don't think that's I'd be amazed if that wasn't exactly what was going to happen. Why else do you bring Tom Brevoort on?
Yeah.
But we do know there was a quick change at some point editorially because they released that teaser,
New X-Men teaser.
new X-Men coming, and it never materialized.
Well, yeah, no, we know that Brevoort was established to take over the new era of X-Men around the time that announcement was made. Every single book that's being published right now is edited. Well, the editor of this era is still Jordan White.
Yeah.
The difference is that he's not going to be doing the next one. But the story of this portion of Krakoa will hopefully be told in the future, and then we'll know more. But
new series.
For now, I'm not ready to blame editorial for this because I haven't been happy with what the X-Men have been doing for a long time, for almost a year now. Fall of X has been going on since August or something like that, and I haven't liked almost any of it.
For me, it's been since Inferno.
Yeah.
You did like that Spider-Man book, though, right?
Jesus. Let's talk about Dawnrunner #1. This is written by Ram V with art by Evan Cagle, colors by Dave Stewart, and letters by Aditya Bidikar. What a creative team, just off top. Just really, really strong creative team. And this book, if you're not aware, it's about big giant mechs fighting kaiju. And that's pretty cool. Like, I don't really need to say a whole lot more than that. There is more to it than that. And I think, at the end of the issue, we get a glimpse of what more there is. But I think the more of it, and I'd rather we didn't spoil just because I think people should go buy this. But the more, unless you guys disagree, but the more is, I think, going to be supplementary rather than like overcome the premise of kaijus versus robots, mechs.
Ooh, I feel the opposite.
Yeah, I think I do too.
Yeah. I
think that's what's going to set it apart.
Yeah. For this, I'm reading this. I'm like, all right, it's Pacific Rim. It's Evangelion.
Yeah.
But at the end, there's the Ram V flavor comes in. It's like, all right, well, now we're dealing with, I don't want to say exactly what happens, but I'll talk about maybe themes of it. We're dealing with potential identity, potential history of things, and that which is something Ram V has dealt with in a lot of stuff. The history of the Avatar of the Green was something he dealt with in Swamp Thing. So I can see that being the idea and what the story Ram V wants to tell, with that being a kaiju versus robot mech skin over it that is just gorgeously drawn by Evan Cagle.
Yeah, I don't feel like we said anything different. I'm saying that those things are like, the presentation of this is always going to be kaiju and mechs, and there will be other interesting things happening that will differentiate it from just being that.
Okay.
Those are the things that supplement this. First of all, the art is outstanding. I don't recall being exposed to Evan Cagle before.
You have.
Okay.
Detective Comics covers is who he is.
So Ram's detective, like
the
more recent stuff. Okay.
When we interviewed Ram mentioned, "Hey, I'm working on interiors with Evan on something."
Yeah.
He didn't say what. So this is presumably what that is. Yeah.
Well, it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. It reminds me of a book I read called Motor Crush. I don't know if anybody remembers
Babs
that
Tarr.
one, but yeah.
Yeah.
It reminds me a little bit of that, and maybe it's because that book was about racing.
Yeah.
So it has a similar feel to it. But man, if this isn't a phenomenal artist, holy shit.
Dude, there's a Babs Tarr variant cover to this that is very Motor Crush. It's
so
fun.
cool. Damn, I wish I'd gotten that.
I was getting a lot of Paul Chung from this, the creator of Aeon Flux.
Oh, sure.
there's a lot of like exaggerated movement in this where it's almost like an animation. I forget the term they use, but an animation with each individual frame. Sometimes the proportions look goofy because it needs to make movement happen when you're progressing frames in animation. One Piece is big in this. And Flux is another I can think of. And I feel like there's moments where Anita is running, or there's moments where the fight scene happens where the mech pulls a sword out of this kaiju, and it's just like it's a very interesting choice of the timing of when they want to do that. That reminded me of like that weird time of MTV cartoon animation that we had. Ghost in the Shell. I get a lot of that in this too.
Sure, totally.
The Scarlett Johansson movie. No, I'm joking.
That animated film. Sammy?
I don't think so.
No, she was live action, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing I wanted to praise as well is the colors, the Dave Stewart colors. They are perfect. Like
Dave Stewart's
pitch perfect.
Yeah, he's Mount Rushmore colors.
So good.
Yeah.
As far as the story, so Rom does a lot of expositing. There's a lot of explanation of, you know, the who, what, when, where, why, and how of this world. And I think for me, sometimes I was like, come on. I understand the necessity for sure, but it felt like for me this was more of a visual spectacle, and I would not care about a book like this otherwise. Hold your hate. The reason why I like Rom V books so much is because it's never just what it seems like it is. And the reason that I'm excited for this is not for any of the stuff that happened outside of the art, not for any of the stuff that happened, you know, in the meat of the story, but it's what happened at the end. It's the promise that there's so much more to come that gets me excited. I didn't care for, you know, the Six Fingers #1. I think it's the Six Fingers, the Rom V one. I loved One Hand. I loved the second one. That was my pick of the week because that got into why this book should exist. So far, this is just like the genre trappings. I want to see it get beyond that, and it establishes that it will. It's the exact same thing I said about the One Hand novel. So I have every confidence that this is going to be great.
Robbie does he has a almost like a cookie cutter layout for an issue one that I think just works very well. It suckers you in with genre or familiarity, like familiar things. Like, and then there's the turn, the Rom V turn at the end. That's just like, all right, yeah, you got me again, Rom. Like, it's you know, for Rare Flavors, it was, you know, the addition of like the recipes in it that was like, all right, this is a really weird thing that's new to a comic for me. You know, Swamp Thing, it was, you know, changing the avatar entirely. But the familiarity of it being in the DC universe and it being Swamp Thing, you know. Yeah, Ron V is definitely like up there with my favorite, you know, writers out there right now.
Yeah.
And maybe did he mention he was drawing something at one point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. See what happens with that one.
We get a kaiju fight, a kaiju mech fight here, which is pretty damn cool. I don't really like pop too much for action scenes between characters that I don't know. And so for me, you know, it's just a fight, but it looks great. It looks great. And I think as we start to care more about, I'm assuming, you know, Dawnrunner, and, you know, Dawnrunner is the name of the mech that's going to be the you know, Anita's like mech, and they're going to have a relationship. Yeah.
Anita's the pilot.
I'm sure I'll care much more later. Right now it's just a mech fight, and I don't care too much about things like that. But it looks cool.
I actually had a lot of trouble following what was happening.
I wanted to say that, yeah.
And I kind of think it might be because I feel like Dawnrunner might be a little over designed.
I
It
understand
has
exactly. Yeah.
Was it the two phases of initiation almost that needed to happen? There was the one panels that were gorgeously drawn with all the cabling in the head, and then she got put into a tube or a pod.
well that as well, but also the fight itself. Um, and that's specifically what I wanted to bring up. You know, her going into the mech is like that's a whole thing. Like I saw Evangelion, I kind of get what's going on there. Fine, it's not super clear, but whatever. But the fight was like it was just unclear because it felt like I couldn't latch onto a shape that looked like the previous thing I'd already seen. So like if you take the full spread of that we see Dawnrunner for the first full time, you see its whole figure. But then, when you turn to the next time you see it, 2 pages later, it sort of looks like a jet, but now it's got a sword. And I couldn't quite make out the moves and what was happening, and not even necessarily when, but just like the cool moments. I felt like I was missing the cool moments because I was trying to dissect what I was looking at.
I completely agree. I looked over those pages multiple times,
Yeah.
and it's sort of like the Transformers problem as well, where the scale of this is not clear, but and because they're robots, it's hard to say like where's the head, where's the like. I found this very difficult to actually look at just from that perspective. Evan will have a lot of time to draw these, I'm assuming, so hopefully that gets a little clearer in the future.
Is it only a 3-issue series? Amazon said this was book 1 of 3.
Oh, I did not know that. I did not know that.
I
Hmm.
didn't. I didn't have issue deciphering the, I guess, anatomy of the mech. I think the legs and the torso, the thin torso, is kind of. It sounds pervy, but like that's what the thighs of it helped me center where the part of like where the mech stood.
Well,
Um,
but like look at this middle panel here in the like what's going on there?
he's stabbing him. It's the impact of the stab with the sword.
I just I don't know. I couldn't get it.
Is Dawnrunner supposed to be under the kaiju in that sequence? Is that, I guess that's the
Yeah,
idea
that's how
there?
I was reading it. Yeah, it was going for the neck.
Mm. Um, yeah. Dow says there was a large emphasis on understanding the kaiju language that I felt was somewhat interesting, but the twist at the end left me confused on how the two might be related. Well, first of all, Dow, thank you. I haven't seen your name before. Welcome to the channel. Yeah, I mean, I think that's just one of those things that's going to materialize more later. I think you're supposed to sort of have that question and not be sure yet. I trust that Rom will make that very clear, likely in the second issue.
Yeah.
Kale, there's at least an issue 4 solicited, so Amazon lies.
It's a 5-issue series according to Dow, which I believe that.
Oh, is that right? Yeah, I just
5
I
sounds
just
right,
double
yeah.
checked on Amazon. It says 1 of 3. So
Bizarre. Amazon gets stuff wrong. Um, I
what?
I I enjoyed this though for sure. I liked it a lot. The art's great. Dave Stewart just again proving why, as Tyler said, he's one of the best working colorists in the industry. And I think Rom V does a very solid job with the script, and I think that things will get a ton more interesting down the road. Issue ones are tough, but I believe in Rom. I believe this will get really cool. So I'm gonna pull, and I anticipate we'll be talking about all 5 of these issues, as long as we like the second one as much.
Oh, we will.
You guys are obviously pulls as well.
It's a
Oh
pull for
yeah.
me. I'm a
Pull,
little
pull,
curious
pull.
as to
Yeah,
why
yeah.
Dark Horse is doing it as opposed to like like an Image. This feels like a book Image would have picked up, you know, a couple years back. But I don't understand how any of that works
Huh.
anymore with
Weird.
Distillery and stuff.
It still feels like a Dark Horse book to me more than
Because
an Image book.
Dave Stewart's on it.
That that could be. Yeah, that could be.
What's your reasoning, Kale, for saying that?
Um, it could be the coloring. It feels like it almost feels like there's a color wash over it that has almost like a this is gonna you know, in movies when they have a filter for your location, and like Latin American countries are always that light brown.
Sure.
I
Yes.
feel like Dark Horse kind of does that too.
It's like Avengers
If
movies.
if it's a Hellboy book, it's all black. It's all heavy inks. And this, for whatever reason, feels like it has one of those. And that feels like a distinctly Dark Horse thing to me.
I was joking about Dave Stewart, but I guess that makes sense because he's the Hellboy colorist.
All right. So those are our book reviews for the week, but we are not done by any stretch, because not only do we have the stack coming up a little bit later, but right now we are going to tell you guys our thoughts about X-Men 97. The first 2 episodes dropped last night, and we're going to talk about them.
I got confused. I watched the first 97 episodes of the original series. Damn.
Oh wow.
I don't even know that there were 97 episodes.
Yeah, I'm not gonna fact check that.
So I was very nervous about this. I wasn't sure that it was going to be particularly good. I don't have a lot of confidence in, you know, shows or anything really that feels like it's explicitly nostalgia bait. Which I don't think it's weird to say that this is that. I don't think there's a problem with this being that.
Yeah.
Anything is good as long as it's good. I don't care who it's for. If it's good, it's good. But like a lot of the voice actors aren't around anymore, and it's also been almost 30 years since that show ended. So, you know, the ones that are still around, do they have the same voices? Can they do it? And behind the scenes, it's not necessarily all the same people either. Bo DeMayo is really the showrunner and the writer of many of the episodes, and, you know, so very deeply involved. So watch the first 2 episodes, and I am so happy to say that it is phenomenal. I found these 2 episodes to be not only lockstep with what I like expect from that show, like it follows the lineage of the original animated series very closely, but it feels like that unleashed, because we know how much the censors impacted the original show. We know how limited they were creatively by that. And of course, by animation. You know, everybody shits on the animation of the original show. I don't, but it had a hell of a time dealing with animation studios and things like that. It was hell. This show gets to, I feel like it just gets to do everything that the original show could not. And it feels like home to me. It feels like this is the X-Men.
I mean, like, even the way it's marketed for the people who watched the original series. You know, like it's trying to tap in that nostalgia, but at the same time, like, I think in the first episode, I was like, all right, this is really cool. It looks interesting, but it wasn't towards like the end of episode 1 and into episode 2 I realized, like, oh no, this is actually a mature take on it. Like it is an evolution of the animated series in tone, I think, as well. Because I feel like it's allowed to be a little more, like you said, unleashed, Sean. Like I think it gets to feel a little more adult in a way. I think the original animated series was adult for a Saturday morning cartoon show, but this feels even more so for some reason. I think the Magneto bits in episode 2 really was like, all right, yeah, let's go for it. I know they kind of, like, the end of the series, Sean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it deals with Charles leaving and with Lalandra, right? So it does a soft retcon a bit.
No, I'm pretty sure. Maybe I'm remembering it wrong myself, but I thought there was an assassination attempt, and she takes him to try to save his life.
I'll look
Yeah, I
it
think
up.
okay, but yeah, I remember Lalandra coming and taking Charles. Yeah, so yeah, you might be right there. Yeah, but man, I really like this. I'll admit the first couple minutes, like the first intro scene with Sunspot, who is our kind of version of Jubilee. In that there's some good bits with Jubilee and Sunspot here, um, but I was a little off guard. I was like, do I like this? I'm not sure. The animation's a little weird. It's cartoon, but you can still see it was done with a computer. The fluidity of it's a little strange. But then I was just like, no, this fucking rules once they had that first fight scene. Um, Cyclops is the star of these 2 episodes, man.
Yeah, Cyclops fucking rules.
The,
What?
yeah.
What? Dude.
They made him
Dude.
cool. Like,
They made
Well,
him
hold on.
they made him bad ass.
Yeah.
Cyclops. So Cyclops has a reputation for being a milk toast Boy Scout, and everybody always shit on him. He's a cuck and all that garbage. They didn't waste like even 10 minutes
No.
making Cyclops a beast. He was fighting like I've never seen. I don't think Cyclops throws a punch in the original series. All he did was get punched. In this, not only does he throw punches and actually showcase the fact that Cyclops is an elite level physical fighter as well, but he uses his concussive blast, his optic blast, in such awesome ways. When he's and this is like full spoiler, so if you haven't watched it yet, I'm sorry, but like when he's falling and they're all falling from the jet, and he just uses his concussive blast to like give him a safe landing and a badass landing, I was like, oh, okay, they're on it.
not only that, he was like, it wasn't even a question for him. He's like, you save that person, you save that person, and he's just fallen, but he's cool and collected the entire time. And like everyone uses his optic blast as like a laser beam, I feel, when it's not that, it's force. And this showcase, like there's one bit where he uses his optic blast just to sidestep somebody, and I was like, I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Yeah.
Like that fight scene alone made him almost cooler than he was in any of the X-Men movies.
Almost.
Definitely, yeah.
He didn't do anything in those movies. It was tyranny with Fox. They didn't give a damn about Cyclops.
And as a Cyclops fan, man, I was just eating it up. It's good shit.
Yeah. Cyclops got the level up. They did right by him. Storm. I mean, the internet's been going crazy over Storm in this series, voiced by the same actress as the 90s version. And that woman still has the ability to tap into the confidence, the poise, the grace, the regality that Storm has. And that scene, it's been shared a million times at this point, but the scene where she puts those politicians in their place and gives them the rundown of exactly how they're going to survive this if they shut up and listen, like that is Storm to me. No nonsense.
And not only that, but the previous episode when they're fighting Master Mold, where the Sentinel's like Omega level mutant detected, and I was like, oh shit, here we go. And then Storm shows up and she turns the sand to glass, and then it makes a shrapnel tornado. I was like, oh yes, this is good Storm shit. And then where they leave her at the end of issue 2, it's like, all right, that actress is gonna have to do something different with the character too. Oh man, I was so pleasantly surprised by this, because honestly I had no hype going into this.
So the first episode really is taking the first like season or arc of the first series, and because I'm sure that's what most people remember, is their battle with the Sentinels throughout that first season.
Yeah.
And it basically says, okay, here's everything you remember, and here's how the X-Men have leveled up. It took them all season to stop Master Mold and beat out the Sentinels. It took Professor X's involvement, Magneto, and everything else. Here, it was just the core members of the X-Men, and they demolished them in what essentially was a graveyard. So it's like, let's bury this now. Let's get through all this now so we can do the new. And also, let's show you that these X-Men are not the same exact ones you remember in power and scale. They are way up there. The Sentinels are not enough. So what, dear listener, is the threat that is going to put these X-Men to the test? Well, they depowered Storm, which is obviously bad for the X-Men because she's the most powerful of them all. And I'm sure that that's going to lead to a very incredible and meaningful story, just like it did in the comics. But, you know, also we know based on what's been revealed, but also just if you watch the episodes, that Mr. Sinister is coming for them. And I love that.
Yep.
I mean, we're getting clones X-Men Clone Saga immediately.
Madeline Pryor right out
Yeah.
the gate.
Oh,
I
And
already
I'm
got
not like, I don't like that whole deal, the Madeline Pryor stuff very much. Um,
I think it might be handled a little more tastefully here than what it was in the comics, I think.
it was convoluted in the comics too. I think this has the opportunity
Yeah.
to streamline that much better.
yeah. And so, you know, I was upset by seeing Jean Grey sidelined once again. You know, the original show sidelined her all the time. In the comics, she's currently unconscious. And I'm like, are we really doing this again? But they actually get through the pregnancy angle within the first couple of episodes, which I was happy about. But then, of course, at the end, the reveal that that wasn't even Jean at all. Okay, I'm in. Let's go.
I saw a tweet that was like, as soon as Cyclops sees the gene that comes in, sigh and faint, he knew who was real.
Oh man, yeah, I saw that too. That's funny.
Jean.
So yeah, all said, I am so happy about this. The child inside me is radiating happiness and joy. You know, I always feel a little bit bummed out when people talk shit about the OG series because that was my favorite TV show. That was my favorite animated show, and I feel like I learned so much from that show. It was a font of like, you know, challenging topics for children. You know, the other shows that everybody loves so much, I feel like, you know, they were very fun and faithful, but they weren't challenging. And X-Men forced me to think. And, you know, even I went back during COVID summer to watch that show from start to finish. And I had such a great time, even as an adult. So this is directed right at me, and I loved every second of it.
I also liked, just in terms of like the animation of it, it can do more. There's in the intro when Rogue is, you know, she like kills like a sentinel in the opening credits or whatever, but there's just like a dynamicism to it that the original series couldn't do.
Yeah.
That I think this just has the ability to. And there's also that weird, like Kelly, you mentioned, you know, with Dave Stewart putting a filter on it. The fact that this has like a cathode tube TV filter on it the entire time, I thought is great. Like this thing, everything looks a little fuzzy, like you're watching it on an old TV. I thought that was a really, really fun touch to it too.
This is what I always hope for from adaptions, like super faithful, you know, feels like the characters, you know, like the conversation between Jean and Storm, man. Ooh, and so many people on the internet, fools, dummies, I'll go even further, saying, "Oh, that's so out of character and disrespectful. Why would Jean be worried about having a mutant child and how she would have to explain that to her child? Jean would not have that concern. And how dare she say that to a black woman who would deal with, you know, hatred and bigotry whether she was a mutant or not? Are you fucking stupid? Do you understand the fact that when you are any kind of a minority at all, that's a thought you're going to have?
Mhm.
Do you understand that raising a person who is perceived as different in the world is hard to do? And that you, as the parent, you have it hard, but what you're worried about is how hard your child is going to have it. Have you ever considered what it's like? That's not easy. Not easy at all.
Thank you, Homer Simpson, in the chat for saying nerds. Sure.
Thank you,
Nice
Homer.
to see you, Homer. Big fan.
Thank you, Homer. Welcome. Appreciate you, Homer.
So a couple things I want to bring up. That some of the internet's upset about the Magneto Rogue stuff, and I'm like, oh boy, you guys didn't read the comics. You guys are in for a ride. That's gonna be an interesting thing. And I popped when I saw Leech. Did you pop when you saw Leech, Sean? Yeah.
I mean, I've loved Leech for 20 years.
Yeah,
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 of course. No, but like people have to stop viewing television and media through the lens of like whatever your exact specific social morality is. Like not everyone is like you and you don't know everything about the way that people are. There are no mothers worry about bringing their children into the world no matter who they are because the world is crazy. All
Mm.
mothers worry about that. So seeing a mother have those feelings and emotions is not weird at all. And the fact that she would say those things to her best friend, who happens to be black, is also not weird at all. So stop thinking that way. It's bizarre.
I mean, I think you could think that way as long as you don't diminish other people's ways of thinking and understand there could be multi facets to stuff too.
But saying that it's a wrong thing for Gene
Agreed,
to have that
yeah.
conversation is just not true. That's not a
Right.
fact. It's not wrong.
And it's also just a misunderstanding of the characters in this world as well.
In any world, I don't see why Gene would not have a similar conversation with Storm in the comic books. They're friends.
Although I can't remember the last time those two interacted in the comics.
Oh, it was when Storm was unconscious.
Yeah.
Um,
One thing though,
Yeah.
before we get to listener comments, the fact that you see executive producer Kevin Feige on the credits, does this give you any faith in what an MCU X-Men could be? Because
Nope.
the teases that we've got of MCU X-Men, you know, the X-Men theme song, Beast in a lab coat, the bits that we've had feel very X-Men 97.
Kale, do you want to give more of an answer?
No.
Okay.
Well, the answer, I mean, my answer is no, but also like, why would it? Like, you know, it's not like they're going to start with X-Men 97, you know, in the MCU. We might get an approximation of that, but they're still going to have to explain a bunch of stuff. It's going to be as convoluted as anything else. And no, like this already has a base to draw from, you know. The MCU X-Men isn't.
It doesn't give me confidence. And that's because I'm willing to bet that Kevin Feige's probably not that hands-on with this. I read that the caveats he had for doing this was being able to get the OG voice actors back, which they did as much as they could, and being able to get the OG theme song back, which they did, and did a sort of tiny remix too. That has nothing to do with live action. I think that this is aimed at a very specific audience that's already locked in and sold. Whereas I think I'm scared actually at this point of the MCU's X-Men because I'm worried about the dramatic changes that are almost inevitable at this point. I don't trust it anymore. So, all right, let's hit some listener comments. You guys have thoughts on this? Aaron Ruiz says this should be peak fiction for Sean. Cyclops getting praised by everybody. It is. It is. I love this. This is great. I'm so happy that this show has been nearly universally praised.
Chillmonger says Gene was unseasoned.
I'm not going to comment on that.
Can we talk? Roboters says, can we talk about how the X-Men are all looking good in civilian wear? Very iconic comic and 90s wear.
Hell yeah.
People were upset the way Gambit dressed casually. No.
I'm just upset about Gambit.
I was going to say that same thing, Kale.
Fuck, it sucks.
You guys you're not big Gambit fans?
No.
I do not like Gambit.
You know what?
Nope.
I'm with you, actually. I don't hate him.
Hell yeah.
I just don't understand the hype around Gambit.
Right.
Like his whole thing is he looks cool.
Right. Like that's not an identity to me. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
But hey, people love Gambit, so whatever. I also was a Wolverine hater for a large majority of my life.
Brave of you to admit that.
Oh, I don't give a fuck. Yeah, I don't hesitate. I loved Logan, but like the movie, but I don't really care for Wolverine. Clifton Woodbury, I never watched the original 97 and have only seen Wolverine be a bad behind X-Men in all those films. I have always wanted to see him, Cyclops, be a leader and a badass. Yeah. I think this is it. And if you want to see Cyclops be a badass anywhere else, then you got to choose him in a video game and just do cool things yourself.
Was that your go-to character in the arcade game, Sean?
One of them, yes.
Yeah.
I loved putting Cyclops on a team because you know what it was, dude? The shit he was doing in that game where you could bounce the optic blast off the ground and do like massive blasts. I never saw any of that. So I was like, whoa, he can do all these things too? This is great.
I picked Dazzler. That was mine.
I just like Cyclops.
Yeah.
Did you see that there are X-Men versus Capcom fans on the team?
Yeah.
that's made it. Like Cyclops was doing moves from the game.
Really? Oh, that's
Yeah. I
interesting.
don't remember which one it was. Maybe
So-
Optic
uh,
West. Optic
was that in the
West.
Discord?
There were actually more than one video game inspired designers on the team. Not that they had worked on those OG games necessarily, to my knowledge. Well, some of them may have. There were more than one person that I
Sure.
saw. But that I saw that they were saying they were trying to fit in fighting styles from MVC, Marvel vs. Capcom, into this. And so one of them said he tried to fit in Cyclops' Cyclone Kick.
It was at Matthew B64 on X, formerly known as Twitter. That's
That
what was
rules.
posted in the Discord. Yeah.
That rules. I love that.
Sick.
Or
Sick.
can we expect Marrow in this series now? Is my question.
I would love that. Flo Dameron said, too bad they fired the showrunner. I'm glad that hasn't tainted the show. Well, according to what I have read, Bo DeMeo wrote the first 3 seasons already. So from a writing standpoint, if they keep with all of the things that he worked on, we should get a similar level of quality.
Yeah. I don't think we're gonna know how it affects that for a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
All right. So we've got one last thing to do here. You guys know we like to end things on this show. We've got the stack. Sean's stack, my stack. This is where we take a look. We guess at how many books I bought this week. And, whoever wins. I want to up the ante. I'm going to up the ante. This is what I want to do. I feel like doing this. The winner of the stack segment this week, whoever gets right or is closest to right without going over, will get from me a code to any of the Marvel books I bought this week that I still have a code for. So if you're curious about any of these books, if you want to jump in, I don't care if you've been reading them, whatever. It's up to you. If you win, I will grant you the code for any of the Marvel books that I purchased this week. So with that out the way, how many books do you guys think I bought this week?
I'm going with 12.
Okay.
yeah, bear in mind we've already got 5. Tell me we did. Yeah, 5. Count them. James Jones says 15.
Ooh.
Robotters has that sweet 16. Uncaged says 17.
Okay. 17. Ooh, that's a
Tyler
lot.
says 12.
I genuinely don't know. That's the fun part for me of this. Like, I have no fucking clue. I could put a guess in.
Hound says 10. I'm gonna say 14. Dan says 12. Dan says that code will be a nice addition to the omnibus you owe him from last week.
Whoa, which one do I owe you? Whoa. I don't owe anybody anything anymore. I'm
You
taking
play some
care of
bets on the
Kepis.
side, Sean, that we don't know about?
No.
Who's your bookie?
My days of betting with listeners are over. Dow says 13. Izzy and Rami both at 14.
What did I say? 14? I said 14.
I think you were at 14, yeah. And just in case multiple of you are correct, I'll give them out in the order that people guessed. So, we ready? We ready
Let's
to? All right. So we've got the 5. We've got the 5 that we already, that we're already aware of. We've got Invincible Iron Man number 16.
That's wild you're still reading that. Oh, it's wild that you're still buying them.
There you go. Yes, there you go. That's the correct amendment to that. Well, I'll find out at some other point how good the book actually is. Fantastic Four number 18. At this point, I'm buying this for Alex Ross covers. Like
I'm already off at this point. Did you even get the Alex Ross cover?
Oh no, this isn't even the Alex Ross.
You got the Phil Noto one, didn't you?
Whoa.
Why? No, because you know what it is. Now I gotta go buy it again.
Remember that for next week.
Yep.
So what it is I always like want to reach into like the middle of the stack to pull a non, molested copy, but then I don't look to make sure that it's the cover I wanted.
My man's so eager to spend his own money, he doesn't even look.
Yeah, what do you have like headphones on at this point? Are you like zombie mode?
Yes, I don't like shopping. I go to get exactly what I want and I want to leave. I don't like to be in stores. Green Lantern number 7 is a great comic book. Everybody should be reading this.
It's War Journal, right? Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
Green
War
Lantern,
Journal. I'm sorry.
Yep.
I'm sorry. Yeah, War Journal. I'm like bummed about that cover. Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, #4, another great series everybody should be buying. It ends, I believe, in a couple of issues. So nice little 6-issue trade there for you. Cobra Commander #3.
I'm way off now.
Yep, that's 10.
Oh my god. The display.
Oh no.
Yeah,
The
I looked through the
displays-
books, and he's already named like 4 books I didn't expect him to get. So
Uh-oh.
The Displaced #2. That probably should have won the poll this week. Holy Roller
Definitely should've.
#5. Yes, Kale. I'm still buying it.
big Fall Out Boy fan, huh?
I just
Yeah,
like
actually, I love
of
Fall Out Boy.
all the things you could have bought.
I'm more surprised at the Iron Man one, honestly. That's a Remender book. That's not surprising to me.
There you go.
All right.
Blade #9, of course. How could I not? Web of Spider-Man #1.
Nice. That's the cost of 2 books right there.
Yeah, nice $7.99 smack on my face. Thank
Ye-
goodness Atomic Hound dropped us that $10 super chat that almost offsets the cost of this. And when I say almost, that's because that after YouTube's cut, that ain't no $10.
Yeah.
Not that the money goes to me anyway. I don't dip into our coffers. But actually, this book, not great. It features like so many different stories, and it's all of them are there's like this Madam Web opening page.
Hell yeah. Big fan.
Where she just explains what we're about to see, which is just a look at different, like what's going on with all the spider people.
She's the Crypt Keeper.
She might as well have said, "Hey guys, I'm Madam Web, and this is Marvel Comics. Let's take a look at the things we want to sell you here over the next year."
Is Sydney Sweeney in that book?
Hi, I'm Dakota Johnson.
But it's got like teases for what's coming up in Amazing and Spectacular Spider-Man and Spider-Gwen by Stephanie Phillips that we're going to be getting soon. And it teases the future for Kane and Chasm and all these characters. And it's just like,
Yo, I'm a big Kane head. I love Kane.
I'm more of an Undertaker guy myself.
You got a big
Sorry.
year coming then.
That's fine. I get it.
I get that reference.
It teases Spider-Man 2099 and what's going on with that. So for me, it's highly passable. Probably the worst $7.99 I've spent at least this week. It's just a whole lot of nothing. And I also purchased Man's Best #1. Yeah, I wanted to
you
get
got a lot
this
this week,
because it's by Pornsak Pitashot. I'm sorry if I said his name incorrectly. But it's a cat book by Pornsak. So I want to support good creators. I'm a big fan of his. I'm not a cat guy, but I'll give this a try. Maybe I will be now.
What was that horror book that he did that was really, really good?
Infidel.
Infidel. Oh, that was good shit. Yeah.
We did a book club on that actually.
The Good Asian was supposed to be really, really good
The
too.
Good
I gotta
Asian
go
was
back to that.
excellent as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's my stack.
I think that's 15.
Is it?
One off.
5
I
plus
think it's 15.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 15. 15 books. So did anybody hit that number this week? Did anybody say 15?
Yes, someone did.
Yeah, it was
James
definitely
Jones did.
15. James Jones. James
Oh,
Jones was
my
the
man.
first person to get his call his shot, and he was exactly on the money and the only person that got it. So hats off to you, James. You tell me if you want one of these codes, you tell me which one you want. And as long as you can get to me, whether it's on Twitter and DM or on Instagram or our Discord server, which is what I would most prefer. I would most prefer to receive a Discord DM from you. I will send you your code.
He said, wait, was that 15? Yes, 15. James Jones. I like to think he just he exclaims his names when he gets excited. James Jones.
Tyler, you're muted, buddy.
I'm surprised you didn't pick up the $6 April special from DC Comics, Sean.
I avoid shit like that like the plague. We had Homer Simpson on earlier. Pink Panther is also here. Welcome, Pink Panther. I
Wild.
have your theme song in my head right now. Uh, so yeah, James, just let me know what you want. Um, there should be an extra category for the yearly predictions on what's the highest amount of books Sean is going to buy in a week. Aaron Ruiz said that. That's funny. That's
Problem
funny.
is, we would have to keep track of that.
Right.
No, I
And I
think
know
I
it.
think what would be better and be more wild is Price is Right rules, where we have to guess the amount of books Sean bought that year.
I would never
And
know that.
not only amount of books, but we have to buy the amount of books. Not only do we have to get the number, we have to get the price. We have to get the
No, too
cost of
much,
what
too
he's
much.
done as well.
That is I don't know if Sean wants to know that.
Actually, sort of don't. Well, I'm more no.
Sort of. Oh, I bet.
I'm actually highly curious about that. One time, one
One
of the
time.
people working at Midtown was like trying to find my account and said, "Oh, you've been here for a while. Wow, this account is almost 20 years old." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." So he's like, "Do you want to know how much you spent?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And he told me the amount, and I was like, "What the fuck? That is insane."
Started googling how to tie a noose. Like,
Well, I mean that amount goes back to when I was a child, so
sure, okay.
that's that's tied into all
You
that.
need like a
I am
Spotify Wrapped
never
for your spending on comics.
I am never buying a house.
Yeah, so by the way, I'm probably gonna do that now from now on, give away some codes. So if you're on our Discord server already and you're not James Jones, who,
James
whatever
Jones.
James Jones, whatever he chooses will be off limits, but then everything else up for grabs. If you're on our Discord and you want to message me for a code, feel free and I'll send it your way.
Man, I got 281-330-800 stuck in my head now.
Also, announcement. Unfortunately, our Jeff Johns, Jason Fabok interview is not going to be happening next week. Jeff and Jay both had scheduling conflicts that make it so that we can't do it even on Thursday. We were thinking about preempting this to do that, and that's not possible. So, unfortunately, that interview is going to have to be rescheduled for another time, and we'll keep you guys posted as far as when that's going to be. So, we're sorry. We try to make these announcements in advance enough so that you guys can get excited, but every now and then this kind of thing occurs. So, but like I said, we'll keep you posted on when that is happening. We do, however, have Kelly Thompson joining us this Saturday at a special start time of 1 p.m. Eastern. For the main show, we're going to talk to Kelly about, of course, Black Widow, or Birds of Prey, Black Widow, Black Cloak, the Triple B. We've got the call as well we'll be talking about. So come hang out for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. Kelly's great. And we're also going to be giving away a volume 1 of one of her books. So you come hang out with us, ask a question, leave a comment. One of you will leave that with a volume 1 of Kelly's fine work. So we will see you then. We will see you then, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out.